Hello, it's I, WebFox, and welcome to another free movie review. The movie I'm reviewing right now is Insurgent. This is a sequel to the Divergent movie, which they're both adaptation of books from the Divergent series. And I believe that there's two more books in the series, so we may see two more movies. At least you may see two more movies. Well, I plan not to watch any more because I really didn't care for Insurgent. I haven't seen the first movie, Divergent, or read any of the books, but from what I've seen of this movie, I do not care about any of those at all. Taking place about 200 years after some sort of disaster, the city of Chicago is behind a wall, and whatever people that there are, was it, five different tribal groups? I don't really understand the groups. I mean, how people could tell who goes to what group or what special ability each group has. It's just each group has a way that they want to live, and so that's the way they live. There's a pacifist group. There's a group that only tells truths, no lies. And apparently there's a group that's only there for military purpose. And I guess another group got killed off, and the fifth group is just a group. I don't know. The, they may have explained it better in the first movie, but I haven't seen it, so I don't really know much about the groups. Just that there's five of them. One of them is dead, and I don't know. That's about it. So the movie takes place shortly after the first movie, where Trish, the lead female character, is grieving over the loss of her parents and family members of her group, or her former group. Her and her friends are declared as terrorists, so they're in hiding in the pacifist group, and they're known as divergents, which apparently means that they've got abilities from all five groups, even though they don't really declare what the abilities are. So it's up to Trish, her, I guess, boyfriend, four, odd name, a couple of their friends, and anybody else that they could find to tag along to bring down the one group that's in charge of the other groups, and their leader, who has the silliest name, but I think his name was, Jenny, I believe? Jennifer? Beginning of a J. It's just like a normal street woman's name. It's just, I don't know, I guess she's sort of cute, but it's just having a name like that as being an evil leader is just really gets you off guard. Unlike the Lego movie where they had President Business slash Lord Business, where it's just so over the top and silly that just having such a basic name to such a evil character is just not quite right. So a lot of this movie is just a bore for me. The acting, quite a bit of the action, the sets, just not anything there to really entertain me. I guess if there was a one or two of the bad guys, like the head bad guy, what's her name, Jenny, where her acting gets a bit of amusement from me. But really, a lot of these guys are just almost like planks of wood. But for Trish, I guess you sort of give it to her because quite about more than half the movie, she's grieving over the loss of her dead parents, of people she knew, and also apparently she had to shoot a friend of hers at the end of the last movie, and she tried to keep that a secret. So she really sort of shows the whole grieving thing about being lost, not knowing what to do, and what things that she can do. How can she properly work it out without getting the rest of the people that she know and care about killed? But the writing really just doesn't grab me, and the story is just I've seen too many stories like this already. I mean, having to be in a Chicago where it's like three or four buildings that are still livable and everything else is covered in plant life, and if it hasn't collapsed, it's about to, is a little interesting. And the whole place is surrounded by a giant wall, sort of a bit like Attack on Titan style. But the thing is that nobody's ever tried to look outside the wall or anything, or they don't know what. They didn't really talk about what was the disaster is outside. They just know that don't go to the wall. And a couple of scenes where they're doing overhead views that they showed a little bit of the wall. Looked like the wall is a little bit see-through. They don't go into story of anything about what happened outside the wall in this movie. It's mainly about the group and what they're doing to set up the other groups. I suppose he saw this in 3D, but there's no real 3D elements in it. I guess the closest is a bit with some flying broken glass and slow-mo and a bit of debris, but they weren't 3D at all. It's just that they were just sort of floating there. They weren't coming at me at all and doesn't stick out more than any of the other bits of the movie. I know that I was supposed to be in 3D because whenever I try to look at it with my 3D glasses off, the movie's a little blurry. But with the 3D glasses on, it's fine. It's a good looking 2D movie with 3D glasses, which is not right. Another thing I sort of don't get is that apparently in these future dystopia city, that the train has to have two sets of rails instead of one set of rails like trains today. None of the cars are that big. There are two sets of cars just sort of connected to each other. They show that the cars aren't really connected. It says that they just have to pull them both, and so at some point people had to either build two sets of rails next to each other to get these odd train systems set up, or they just added an extra set of rails next to one set of rails. The engine of the train does need all the rails it needs, but as for the cars, they're just separate ones, just sort of loosely connected to each other, being pulled side by side. I did get a couple good laughs. There was a cute little funny one-liners in there, but it's so rarely sprinkled about because it's about the drama and the so unentertaining action and a lot of tension of teenagers trying to be teenagers even though they're clearly not being played by teenagers. There's plenty of things unexplained, a few plot holes, some sloppy writing. I'll tell you this, that if you're a fan of the books, you may want to stay away from the movie because I'm sure the books have done better. But if you like the first movie, go ahead, watch the second movie. I dare you. I'm sure that it'll make more sense to you, and you might get some closure. Probably not, but we'll see how that goes for you. So, Insurgent is not my type of movie, but overall, it's not really that good of a movie. I get that it's a sequel based on a book. Says I wasn't expecting much setup. I know that, but there wasn't really anything that kept me invested in it of what they did explain, and whatever closure they try to lay on at the end of the movie just wasn't enough for me. And don't watch this in 3D. I've heard other reviewers say that actually some theaters are playing 2D versions instead of the 3D versions, so you're just paying extra money without the need of using the glasses.